sections of the population by the center and states and the performance of these schemes, mechanisms, laws, institutions and bodies constituted for the protection and betterment of these vulnerable sections. Global Slavery Index 2018. Context. The report of the Global Slavery Index 2018 has been released. It is published by the Australia-based human rights group Walk Free Foundation. The estimation data were drawn from 54 surveys conducted in 48 countries, which included a module on modern slavery, with a total sample of 71,158 individual interviews. What is modern slavery? In the context of this report, modern slavery covers a set of specific legal concepts including forced labor, debt bondage, forced marriage, slavery and slavery-like practices, and human trafficking. It is used as an umbrella term which refers to situations of exploitation that a person cannot refuse or leave because of threats, violence, coercion, deception, and abuse of power. Performance of various countries. North Korea is at the top of the list with 104.6 per 1,000 and Japan registering the lowest prevalence rate of 0.3 per 1,000. Globally, nearly 3/4, 71% of modern slavery's victims are women and girls. There are more female than male victims across all forms of modern slavery. The 10 countries with the largest number of absolute numbers of people in modern slavery include India, China, Pakistan, North Korea, Nigeria, Iran, Indonesia, Democratic Republic of the Congo, Russia, and the Philippines. These 10 countries account for 60% of people living in modern slavery. Findings from the index highlight the connection between modern slavery and two major external drivers: highly repressive regimes, in which populations are put to work to prop up the government, and conflict situations which result in the breakdown of rule of law, social structures, and existing systems of protection. Extent of modern slavery in India. Among 167 countries, India ranked 53. However, in absolute numbers, India topped the list on prevalence. The index estimates that on any given day in 2016 there were nearly 8 million people living in modern slavery in India, a claim strongly contested by the government on the grounds that its parameters were poorly defined and wide-ranging. The report said that in terms of prevalence, there were 6.1 victims for every 1,000 people. India's stand. The Indian government questioned the definition of modern slavery used in the research and also the sample size for interviews and the question posed to those surveyed. The Ministry of Women and Child Development termed the index flawed in its interpretations, and as the terminology used is very broad-based and words like forced labor need a more detailed elaboration in the Indian context where the socio-economic parameters are diverse and very nuanced. What's important? For prelims, highlights and rankings of countries in the Global Slavery Index 2018. For mains, modern slavery, extent, concerns, issues that need to be addressed, and government efforts. Sources. Topic: India and its neighborhood relations. Delhi Dialogue. Context: 10th edition of the Delhi Dialogue DDX was held in New Delhi. This is the first major event to be organized after the ASEAN and India Commemorative Summit that was held in New Delhi in January 2018. Theme: Strengthening India-ASEAN Maritime Cooperation. What is Delhi Dialogue? It is a premier annual Track 1.5 event to discuss political, security, economic and socio-cultural engagement between India and ASEAN. It has been held annually since 2009 and political leaders, policy makers, senior officials, diplomats, think tanks and academicians from both sides participate in discussions pertaining to ASEAN-India relations. It is aimed at finding the common ground and expanding the scope of cooperation between India and ASEAN nations. ASEAN Association of Southeast Asian Nations. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, was established on August 8, 1967 in Bangkok, Thailand. It was established with the signing of an ASEAN Declaration, Bangkok Declaration, by the ministers of the founding countries. Its founding countries are Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Singapore and Thailand. Eventually, Brunei Darussalam then joined on January 7, 1984, Vietnam on July 28, 1995, Laos PER and Myanmar on July 23, 1997, and Cambodia on April 30, 1999, making up to 10 member states of ASEAN. India's active participation in the region. India's focus on a strengthened and multifaceted relationship with ASEAN is an outcome of the significant changes in the world's political and economic scenario since the early 1990s and India's own march towards economic liberalization. Apart from ASEAN, India has taken other policy initiatives in the region that involve some members of ASEAN like the IMSTEC, MGC, etc. India is also an active participant in several regional forums like the Asia-Europe Meeting ASEAN East Asia Summit EAS ASEAN Regional Forum DAIF ASEAN Defense Ministers Meeting plus ADMM plus and Expanded ASEAN Maritime Forum DAMF. Significance of India-ASEAN relations for India. ASEAN is our fourth largest trading partner and India is their seventh largest trading partner. The Southeast Asian region is economically very vibrant. This is a vibrant economic commercial space for India. India's investment in the last 2 decades has been $70 billion. So, there is a lot of potential in engaging them further. Many countries in the region have people of Indian origin among their citizens, most notably Malaysia and Singapore. Facts or prelims. The theme of 9th edition of Dialogue was ASEAN-India relations, charting the course for the next 25 years. It had marked the 25th anniversary of ASEAN-India partnership. The term Track 1.5 diplomacy is used by some analysts to define a situation where official and non-official actors cooperate in conflict resolution. What's important? For prelims, Delhi Dialogue, theme and key facts. For mains, ASEAN features significance for India and challenges in the changing world. Sources, Paper 3. Topic, Infrastructure, Energy. Solar parks in India. Context, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan have topped the list of states with maximum solar power generation capacity approved under solar parks in India. Gujarat's total capacity of 6,200 megawatt is distributed across 3 solar parks. Rajasthan's 4,331 megawatt capacity comes from 6 parks, while for solar parks account for Andhra's 4,160 megawatt total approved capacity. Uttar Pradesh and Madhya Pradesh have 570 megawatt and 1,570 megawatt approved capacity, respectively. Also, 7 of the 45 parks have capacity exceeding 1,000 megawatt. Solar Park Scheme. The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy MNRE has drawn the scheme to set up a number of solar parks across various states in the country, each with a capacity of solar projects generally above 500 megawatt. The scheme proposes to provide financial support by Government of India to establish solar parks with an aim to facilitate creation of infrastructure necessary for setting up new solar power projects, in terms of allocation of land, transmission and evacuation lines, access roads, availability of water and others, in a focused manner. As per the policy, these solar parks will be developed in collaboration with the state governments. The implementation agency would be Solar Energy Corporation of India (SECI) on behalf of Government of India (COI). The states shall designate a nodal agency for implementation of the solar park. What is a solar park? A solar park is a concentrated zone of development of solar power generation projects and provides developers an area that is well characterized, with proper infrastructure and access to amenities and where the risk of the projects can be minimized. Benefits of the scheme for states. At the state level, the solar park will enable the states to bring in significant investment from project developers in solar power sector, to meet its solar purchase obligation, SPO mandates and provide employment opportunities to local population. The state will also be able to reduce its carbon footprint by avoiding emissions equivalent to the solar park's generated capacity. They will also generate large direct and indirect employment opportunities in solar and allied industries like glass, metals, heavy industrial equipment, etc. The solar parks will also provide productive use of abundant uncultivable lands, which in turn facilitate development of the surrounding areas. Way ahead. Given the large land requirement, around 4 acres per megawatt, for execution of solar projects, there are inherent execution challenges related to land acquisition which vary across states, apart from issues of inadequate transmission connectivity. As a result, efforts both from central and state governments are required to enable and coordinate with nodal implementation agency of a solar park, especially for land acquisition and transmission connectivity, in a time-bound manner so that solar projects of larger size can be attracted through bidding in such Parks? What's important? For prelims, highlights of the scheme. For mains, solar park, significance and the need for development of solar sector. Sources, The Hindu. Topic, achievements of Indians in science and technology. India to expand solar research to Arctic. Context, 3 decades after its first mission to Antarctica, the government is refocusing priorities to the other pole, the Arctic, because of opportunities and challenges posed by climate change. Efforts in this regard. The government has renamed the National Center for Antarctic and Ocean Research NCAO since 1998, charged with conducting expeditions to India's base stations to the continent, as the National Center for Polar and Ocean Research. It's also in talks with Canada and Russia, key countries with presence in the Arctic Circle, to establish new observation systems, according to a source. Now, India only has one Arctic observation station near Norway. What made India refocus its priorities? Climate change was a decisive factor in India rethinking priorities. Sea ice at the Arctic has been melting rapidly, the fastest in this century. That means several spots, rich in hydrocarbon reserves, will be more accessible through the year via alternative shipping routes. Facts or prelims. India is already an observer at the Arctic Council, the forum of countries that decides on managing the region's resources and popular livelihood. In 2015, set up an underground observatory, called INDARC, at the concept Jordan Fjord, halfway between Norway and the North Pole. Sources, The Hindu. Tags, current